if you are using meta ads and, you know, diving into the world of pop-up information on social media, then you might want to reconsider. Yes, you might want to reconsider ads, because if you're not also considering your client attention span, which by the way, in 225 in 2025 is actually 1.7 seconds only. Yeah, we're all goldfish. Then you're not even using ads right, let alone any of the other parts of your marketing. Okay. I'm going to let that sink in for a minute, because honestly, my heart is racing when I think about the way we're using marketing all wrong. And that's why we have Sabir here today. He's going to tell us a little bit about himself, why this topic matters to him, and why it should matter to you. Sabir, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Shauna. It's great to be here.
Tell the world a little bit about yourself, your background, and why this topic even matters.
So, I'm an e-commerce growth advisor. By the way, that's a title that was given to me. It's not mine. I work with the sharks on Shark Tank. I work with VCs. I work with angel investors. I work with e-commerce founders. Right. That's a term that they use for me. Right. And what's interesting is, I happened. You said, why does this journey matter to you? What does this topic matter to you? The thing is, I fell into this topic into this journey completely by accident, right? And it's a wonderful accident. Prior to starting this journey of becoming this growth advisor 24 for the past 25 years, prior to that, I was a different kind of a hacker. I was a computer programmer, over 20 plus programming languages. I've coded a lot of the infrastructure of internet as well as e-commerce in the early days, right? So I know how to code. I know how to do all of those things, especially with the stuff that's going on today with, these days with AI. We will definitely jump into it. I want to bring a lot of value to your audience in e-commerce specifically, right? And what happened was, when I got into it, that first part of my story was the Vitamin Shop, right?
Mm.
Again, because of who I was back then, vitaminshop.com had gone bankrupt, and then the founder of Vitamin Shop, the brand, ended up buying all the assets from the bankruptcy court and brought it back into the parent company, because he had spun it off as a public company. A lot of brands were doing that back then, right?
Mm.
It went to public. It made a lot of bad decisions. It went bankrupt, off of Nasdaq, and then Jeff Horowitz, who's the founder of Vitamin Shop, brought it back into Vitamin Shop, right? And then he started looking for the right person to hire to come in to put this back together, because everybody was let go, right? It was all of the assets were seized by U.S. Marshals into the bankruptcy court. I mean, everything you go through when there's an asset seizure and stuff like that. So,
Now you're starting from the ground up.
yep, yep. So it's actually, in fact, when he bought those things back, it's not like it was sitting in a data center. It was in a warehouse in New Jersey,
Oh,
right? All the physical assets. So I got involved. Back then, I would get involved because I was well known, like the way I'm well known right now as the revenue guy for e-commerce. I was well known back then as, if you need your tech startup to go and actually launch properly on time, this is the guy you need to speak to, right? So I was doing quite a lot of that. PerryEllis.com, Tommy.com for Tommy Hilfiger, US Army. I mean, you name it. I've done so many, I have my hand in so many of them. So I get involved in Vitamin Shop. So I say, okay, you know what? This is pretty easy. I can put it back together, right? All the tech stack and everything. So I come in, I get involved, I put the things together, I see the mistakes that were being done on the site, so I start fixing it, right? Because that purely engineering thing, nothing to do with business or marketing, right?
right.
So then I go over to Jeff. I go like, Jeff, okay, I got the thing back up. There was these kind of mistakes. I fixed these things already. Like, for example, one big mistake was the search engine was wrong, right, on the site. So I'd remove the search engine. Before it went bankrupt, they had invested quite a lot in licensing that search engine and paying a consulting company, an agency, to actually develop it, right? So they had spent good money on it. And here I come along, I get rid of it and I replace it with my own. I actually developed my own search engine, and I called it Moses, Moses. It's an acronym, not a biblical reference, okay? Moses, my own search engine by Sabir, right? And what it did was, the search engine that was there, it was delivering about 2 to 3% conversion, right? And then when I replaced it with my own home built, my own version of the search engine, it started generating 10 to 12% conversions. So
Oh,
I don't care. I don't care if you spend $1 million on garbage, right? I that needs to go because it's actually wasting more revenue at that time, right? So, uh, and then I went to him. I said, okay, that's what I did, and this is how it's improving and things like that. Jeff, who do I need to talk to become my business marketing partner? Because we can take this and take it like really, really far, right? He
right.
gives me a puzzled look. He goes like, "What are you talking about, Sabir? My network told me you're the guy. You're the guy who's going to do this." Now, Shauna, this is going to sound like Captain Kirk and Scotty moment from Star Trek, right? But like, Jeff, I'm an engineer, not a marketer, right? Uh, he goes like, no, no, no. I've seen what you have done. Like just this one decision of search engine where you more than 6x the conversions that from the traffic that comes from the site. And I've been using the site now. I love it. Like it, because when I'm searching for something, it actually gives me exactly what I was thinking, right? That's how close. Because the thing is, what I did was at that time, I had beta tested Google at Stanford, right? So I knew like relevance was key thing, number one thing that you needed to address when it came to consumers, right? And if you did that, but Google was doing it for the general public. I was an expert at e-commerce. I said, I'm going to take that same concept, I'm going to do it for e-commerce, right? And when you were looking at anything to do with vitamins and supplements, I'm going to give you exactly what you're looking for,
Right.
right?
Right.
And in the first row, if I give you the first three things that you're even thinking about, most likely you're in, I just saved you time, so you're gonna reward me with orders, so 6 times more orders, right? That so th- going back to the Jeff situation with me, right? I say that I'm an engineer. I'm not a marketer. He goes like, no, no, I've seen what you have done, right? Uh, you're gonna take this over. I want you to run it. I'm gonna teach you the vitamin industry stuff because back then I didn't know anything about vitamins and supplements,
Right.
right?
You're an
I think
engineer.
as a kid, my mom and dad may have shoved some vitamins into my mouth, but other than that, I used to eat pretty healthy and stuff like that. There was no need for it at that time, so go like, okay, he goes like, because at that time this was 25 years ago. He goes like, do you have did you take any marketing or business courses in college? Because I had just come out of university, maybe 5 years or something like that.
Yeah.
I go like, no, I took accounting 101 and economics 101. As a computer scientist, they made me take it. Otherwise, if
Yeah.
I didn't take it, they would not give me my BA degree in computer
That's
science.
right.
He goes like, those are not business and marketing.
Not at
so
all.
so he goes like, you go and you figure out, you're an intelligent guy. You figured out that this was a bad search engine, so you replaced it. So that's good, right? I'm sure that you can figure out marketing, right? So if you have any questions related to vitamins and supplements, I'm going to explain it to you, like what glucosamine conjoined MSM is. I'm going to explain those things to you because he was an expert at it. He knew all of those things, right? But you need to learn marketing. And now remember, 25 years ago, e-commerce is nascent, right?
Yeah.
It's brand new kid on the block. There are no books on it. There is no vlog or blog or
Right.
anything. I was writing the book, at that time. So what I did started doing is during the week I would be at Vitamin Shop, right? I live in New York. Vitamin Shop is in New Jersey, right? So I travel there.
Keep traveling. Yeah.
Uh, and what I do on the weekend, on Saturday, Sunday, I drive out to Long Island from New York. I drive out to Long Island. There is a beautiful bookstore, still stands today, Barnes and Noble, right across from Roosevelt Field Mall, right in Garden City. So I go there. I go to the business marketing section and I'm picking out books. What books am I picking out? At that time, I just naturally thought that things that people are interfacing directly with are the most relevant channels. What are those, right? Any books on QVC, HSN, infomercials, radio marketing, TV marketing, right? Direct marketing. Those were the things that were similar to what I was doing because there were no books on e-commerce, right?
No.
Nothing was out there, right? So
Right.
I'm reading these things and each and every one of them, right? And what I would do is I would literally sit at the Barnes and Noble 10 hours a day, right? Well, on the weekends. And I did that for 4.5 years. So if you think about the working days, it was about 1,000 working days at Vitamin Shop, right? And
Yeah.
every weekend of 4.5 years, that's what I was doing. Like literally on the weekends, 5 days I would work, and then on the weekends I would go to Barnes and Noble in Garden City, sit there, nice and quiet, take notes, buy the books that were very dense that I wanted to keep with me, and anything else I would just sit there, read through it, and take notes.
So
I
can
would
I
take
guess
notes.
something? I want to guess something here. So you're reading all these books for years, every weekend, at least 20 hours a week. We're assuming that maybe there's more than that because you're taking some of them home that were more dense. Okay. My guess is that you found a common thread
Yep.
and applied it then to this revolutionary new world at the time, which was e-commerce, which was
Yeah.
the digital landscape. And
Yep.
we can then carry that through into all of the things that we're doing today,
Yep.
even though we know that within the last 25 years, we have made leaps and bounds in our advancements in that
Oh
space.
yeah, huge.
And that like just as a summary, like that's why it matters.
Yeah.
That's why all of this background, all of this history, and all of this string that
Yeah.
attached all of your education matters. And that leads us to the idea that, hey, guess what? We need to make sure that we are understanding how humans are interacting with things and that their attention span is a key indicator, which
Yep.
is why the quick search engines for exactly what you want makes a difference.
Oh yeah.
So how do we take that into today? How are we applying that right now as business owners who are trying to show up in this very overcrowded, oversaturated, ultra competitive, by the way, market?
Yeah. So the thing is that those learnings about that was that was the antithesis of and the birth of this rapid 2x that I have, right?
Right.
So so this program, this framework that I have, it focuses on 8 dimensions of e-commerce, and one of those dimensions is performance optimization. And performance optimization doesn't mean, oh, I'm fixing your ad creative, or those things happen later down the line. Anything you do, one thing you learn in engineering is you have to solve the root of the problem, right? And I took that engineering lesson and principle and put it into marketing, right?
Right.
The root problem in 2025, from all of that 25 years of learning, I'm going to share this with you, right, with your audience. It's consumer attention span. It's not technology. It's not Meta ads is horrible, or Google ads, how can I get my ROAS up, or whatever, or my conversion rate. Conversion rate is a BS KPI, by the way, for e-commerce. No e-commerce owner should be even paying attention to it, right? I'll tell you what they should replace it with, right? But that's what you need to optimize to the consumer attention span, and put the consumer in the middle of of this universe, this product category you're in. The center of that universe is the consumer. And that consumer in 2025 has a consumer attention span of 1.7 seconds, right?
Right.
And where does this 1.7 seconds come from? Why do I think that that's the number, right? There are platforms like TikTok,
Mhm.
there's Instagram Reels, and Amazon app.
Right.
They have trained the consumer's attention span to ignore things, anything that goes above 1.7 seconds. What do? Swipe to the left, swipe up, swipe up, swipe
Right.
up, swipe up. 1.7 seconds, that's it, right? And if you don't make your point in 1.7 seconds, you're losing a ton of revenue on the front end, and on the back end you're spending money on paid ads, which is not delivering ROAS to you. When you fix this root of the problem, this 1.7 seconds of attention span, and you can measure it, by the way, I'll tell you how you can measure that, right? When you tweak it to that, that's when your business starts like climbing to cloud nine, you know.
Right. That makes perfect sense. So then if we're looking at this from a point of view, because a lot of the people who are joining us today, typically they have like a multi-dimensional business. We're talking about people who are selling not only e-commerce but also services who sometimes when you're integrating a service within your business model,
Yep.
you need to be a little bit more human about how you're approaching things. So my question here is, I guess, threefold. How do we retain our humanity, show up as
Hmm.
human, while simultaneously honoring this whole 1.7 second thing, because it's a real thing. We do need that right away. We hook them, pull them in like that. You got to do it. But then the third thing here, and I know that this is going to be a hot point for a lot of people joining us today, is then Where does AI fit into that? Because I talk about humanness a lot, and AI to a lot of people feels almost like the antithesis to humanity, the robotic side of everything. But I happen to believe it's like a braid, right? If we weave it together in such a way, it's going to be beautiful and it's going to work.
Mhm.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Is that the direction we're taking with the 8D method within the construct, of course, of the rapid 2x framework?
So the most people, let's talk about AI, right? Most people that what gurus or whatever, right, that are out there, when they're showing you AI, they go like, "Oh, just put this in. Look at impressive results," right? The
Mm.
thing is, number one, remove your mommy goggles. Shauna, you know what a mommy goggle is, right? Your
Uh,
your your son or daughter can never do anything wrong.
oh,
Anything they
yeah,
do is
no,
brilliant, right? They could be the most horrible piano player, but to you, you're hearing amazing music, right?
I hear
Right?
you.
That's all mommy goggles, right?
I got you.
For with AI, business owners, e-com founders need to stay away, like remove the goggle as quickly as you can.
Hmm.
So that thing that you just put in and said, "Oh, act as a marketing blah blah blah." You have seen that, right? That's the
Oh, yeah.
optimized, the action personality blah blah blah, and put this request in. It gives you this impressive result. It's similar to that guy you meet at a party that wants to appear intelligent, right? So when you ask him, go like, "Oh, I'm in the market. I'm looking for a car." They start talking about credit score and they start talking about the engine and the cylinders, and I don't know anything about cars, right? So they start talking about these things as if they have been in the industry forever, right?
Mm,
AI does exactly the same thing when it doesn't have any context into who you are, into who your brand is about your products.
yeah.
Nothing. It just it's one of that it's that guy at the party that pretends to know quite a lot about nothing, right? So, but AI is incredible. The thing is, I from my platform, it's interesting because that touches heavily into the tech side of me, and also how do I utilize that on the marketing and business side to increase it. So in the Rapid 2X program, which is my premium program, right? Yeah, what we do is we do actually pretty deep dive premium workshops into AI for e-commerce specifically, right?
Right.
So how do you use AI for e-commerce so that it is legitimately good, right? So let me give you the kind of the outputs that the Rapid 2Xers have gotten out of this premium workshop. They know how to generate the best creative brief for an image ad out of Claude, Anthropic Claude, right? Anthropic doesn't know how to create images. However, ChatGPT 4.0 does a brilliant job of following image generation prompts. So Claude generates incredible creative brief of exactly what we're looking for in that ad, as if you would give it to a creative agency to say, "Hey, here's my creative brief. Now you go and generate the ad for me," right? For
Right.
the image ads. By the way, we have done this for carousel ads. We have done it for even video. I'll get to video ads, how to do video ads with AI, right? So they generate it in Claude, and then they bring it into ChatGPT 4.0, a very detailed prompt. This is not this long. It's
Mm-mm.
long, right? It's like a couple of megabyte text file, right? For one image ad. And then once you give it that context with your logo, with your product, it does an incredible job of producing incredible results. And that's what the Rapid 2Xers in the program are legitimately doing now, because one of the challenges ecom founders have is creative ideas and executing on those creative ideas. You can have probably your images, but you go like, "What do I do with this?" Right? Yeah, and every ecom founder faces issues with the number of assets, because you have my brother from another mother, right? Gary V, right, says, you should be creative testing, audience testing, all legitimate things. the
Yeah.
the roadblock in that, the ecom founder doesn't have that much, because they might be like a product designer, right?
Right.
They might be a marketing, that's their background, right? That's what they bring to the table. But when it comes to this other thing, to them it's alien. This other thing being creative ideas, right? Doing creative ideas, creative execution, storytelling, stuff like that, it's completely a foreign idea to them, right? So when they go through this kind of a premium workshop within the program, besides optimizing the 8 dimensions of e-commerce to grow these e-commerce businesses, we do these kind of deep dives. We have done deep dives into AI. We have done U.S. tariffs. All of these things we do quite a lot of very things that are hurting businesses today or can help them, right?
Hmm.
So that's what we do. And how do you build up this incredible rich context in Claude? Claude does a great job of projects. If you go in there, you can create a project. You can create a project for your brand AI, right? And then you can feed it the content. And that's what we do in the premium workshop. We tell you these are the 20 exports you need to do out of these tools, Shopify, Klaviyo, all of these things, right? Because we need to feed that as your background, as your brand's background, about you as a founder. How do you speak, right? Because a founder is a key asset in brand storytelling, right? You need to be part of that story, the way you tell the story about that shampoo and conditioner or the braiding thing that you sell or
Yeah,
whatever, right? It's your POV, and people are looking for your POV. How can you train AI to actually give you that? You talked about the humanity side of it. It becomes robotic because it's your fault. You're not giving it context, right?
that's
If
the
you if
one.
you're
Yeah,
even as a if you're a mom, you're raising children, right? I raised two of them. I had twins, a boy and a girl. Now those are not kids. Now they're 26 years old adults, right? So if you did not teach them how to eat at a dinner table or how to act in a restaurant or how to treat their friends or play in the playpen or something like that, whose fault is that? Is it their fault or your fault? It's your fault. You're
exactly.
the mommy, you're the daddy, right? The same applies to your brand. Your brand needs you have the context, most of that context, and you also collect context in Shopify, in Klaviyo, in your meta ads performance, in your social media, in your customer reviews from social. Everything is data, right?
Yeah,
Everything is data in e-commerce. You pull that out, you put it into Claude using this framework and prescription that we give in Rapid 2X. And then what it produces is no longer robotic. It's very human. In fact, what we do is what we produce out of Claude AI, we put it into zerogpt.com. I don't know if you know that tool.
hmm,
Zerogpt.com actually detects if this is AI generated.
yeah,
And usually the score is like 0 or maybe 10%. It thinks that
that's
GPT
great.
has produced it. Completely human.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And see, the thing is that what I'm really hearing here is that main thread that goes through everything that you're going to do if you want to remain human while, you know, making sure that you're making money in your business. You're actually doing the things that make sense, and that is combined with the time that and energy that you spend doing it. This is something that people often forget. They think of ROI, they only think money, but the investment is also your time and your energy. So we're using AI. We're
Yeah,
expediting the process. We're making sure that we're doing it correctly. We're making sure that we're keeping the humanity by doing the fundamental work at the beginning, which includes, of course, really thoroughly understanding your brand, thoroughly understanding your client, understanding the way your client uses whatever it is you're using to market to them,
yeah,
understanding that their attention span is only 1.7 seconds. All of that comes into play in every step of the way as you're creating for your marketing in your business, whether in e-commerce, whether you're in a service-based position. When you're showing up online in this overcrowded, oversaturated, super competitive market, you need to have all of these things at play at the same time. And now we've only covered a handful. We really have. We've only covered a handful. You have an 8-dimension method.
yeah,
Like, that's a lot. And
yeah,
people are going to need each aspect to feed into an effective system that's actually going to rapidly grow their business, to
yeah.
actually get them to a place where they're feeling comfortably confident in their earnings and in their lifestyle, the way they're living life within the construct of the business. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to ask you, because we don't have all day. I wish we did. Genuinely, Sabir, listen, I wish we had all day because I could probably talk to you for the rest of the day, but we don't. So what I'm going to ask you to do right now is just to think for a moment. We've got the 8 dimensions. We've talked about AI. We've talked about humanity. We've talked about so many really interesting things. What is the one thing that the people who have joined us for this conversation need to hear right now, need to hear, remember, and take home so that they can action in their day to day in their business? I'm going to let you think about that for a moment, because
Mhm.
that was a heavy question. We're talking about a big topic.
No, I need to
Um,
come back pretty deep. So I'm gonna come back pretty deep. So
well,
you
that's
do
it.
your thing. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. Think about it because you're gonna have to. Yeah. Now I'm thinking about it. I'm not supposed to be thinking about it. I'm supposed to be talking to my beautiful friends here because listen, conversations like this happen every single week. They are amazing for propelling you toward your dreams, your goals, your lifestyle, the things that are actually going to light you up in life and business. So join us, ask the questions, subscribe so you know when the next one is coming out and when Sabir comes back to talk to me again. So with that, please make sure that you leave a comment below, ask us questions because we haven't covered it all and you're going to want to learn more. So tell us what our next conversation will be about. And with that, I'm going to give the mic over to Sabir. Sabir, please tell us, what do we need to know about right now to take home before we have another conversation coming up?
I'm gonna summarize my 25 years of experience and tell you the ecom founders and entrepreneurs that win big time versus the ones that don't win. Right?
Perfect.
It's very clear to me, right? And this is from hundreds of ecom brands that I've touched over my career, right? So it's very simple, Shauna, right? I'm gonna simplify it down to breakfast, right? Let's go with breakfast, right? Bacon
I'm
and
here for
eggs.
breakfast. I'm here for second breakfast, 11sies even. Lunch,
Bacon.
tea.
So
No, I'm
so
joking. Sorry. I'm actually quite tall for a hobbit.
yep.
Go ahead.
So
I
ba-
had to do it.
so the popular breakfast item, bacon and eggs,
Hmm,
right?
okay.
This is a summary of my experience working with entrepreneurs, right? Bacon and eggs. Let's talk about involved and committed. Those two words, involved and committed. The chicken is involved in that breakfast. It contributed the eggs, right? But the cow or the pig is committed. It's all in with that bacon, right? So that's the difference between involved e-com entrepreneurs and committed e-com entrepreneurs. If you are, for example, if you are focused too much, ultra focused on optimizing your meta ads, for example, and yet your site, on average, by the way, Shopify sites, this time to interact, which is the consumer attention span, oh, I said 1.7 seconds. They average around 28 seconds. You're not fixing that root of the problem. Are you involved in that business? Yes, you're involved because you're addressing things that are much later down the line. You're involved, right? You're not committed. Committed is going down to that number, taking that 28 seconds and bringing it all the way down to as close to that 1.7 seconds as possible, right? Because knowing, like your mama and daddy used to say, don't waste people's time, right?
Mhm.
We are wasting a lot of time and our money and our attention span, right? And you need to bring it as close to that as possible, right? So that be a committed entrepreneur. Committed entrepreneurs appreciate expertise, right? They are looking for the best person that will solve this problem that I'm having, right? So what does an involved entrepreneur do? They go like, oh, I have too much work here. Let me go get a $15 per hour VA to take on this task, right? How
Hmm,
do you know that your problem is that $15 per hour VA that's going to solve that problem and your problem is not a $150 per hour expert that's going to kill that thing at the root, right? That's
right.
a committed entrepreneur makes that decision, right? And even in our program, we when we interview folks for the Rapid 2X program, we actually interview them, right? I don't want to waste my time working with involved entrepreneurs. So if they want to pay into the program and then send their lackeys to come in and learn something and go and implement it, we're not looking at that. Every single week when we meet with entrepreneurs, right? They are committed entrepreneurs. They all show up to the Zoom meeting. There are 50 to 60 of them. They actually ask very relevant questions at the root of the problem. How do I solve the US tariff thing? How do I effectively use AI in my e-commerce business to actually accelerate my growth, right? How do I, optimize? I have this app, it's sucking up so much of my site speed and stuff. How do
Mm,
I take that and improve it, right? So the ones that are winners big time in the long run are the committed entrepreneurs. The ones that, if you're involved, you know what happens with involved? The first or second time you face a problem, there goes up, either you shut down that business because
mhm.
you see the next shiny thing and you move on,
Right.
right? And then you move on to the next thing, and then this thing either goes bankrupt, or if you're this much smarter, you would take it, package it in a way that you could sell it off to somebody else,
Mm,
right? And then that's it, you give up and you move on, right? We're not looking for involved. I don't work with involved entrepreneurs. I work extensively, and this is one of the reasons, the Rapid 2X program that you mentioned earlier, right? Within the first 6 weeks, these committed entrepreneurs, ecom founders, they find that their revenue has grown on average 118% in 6 weeks.
let's go.
That's the difference between committed, and that's the difference between bacon and the egg.
No, that's beautiful. And you have this wonderful 21-day offer available here. Let's talk about that.
Yep. So we actually, to bring even more value to your audience, to the marketing rebels, right? We set up a special offer for them. They can definitely scan that QR code, or if they are looking for that URL in the description, they should be able to find it. It's growthbysabir.com/marketing rebels, just like the name of the show, right? That when you go there, because we appreciate the audience from Marketing Rebels, we have set up something really special there for you, right? And then you can apply to the program. We are very rigorous about who we accept into the program. Remember the bacon and the egg. Remember, we work with committed entrepreneurs. We don't work with involved entrepreneurs. So pre-classify yourself. You know who you are, right?
Mhm.
If you're an involved entrepreneur and you want to pretend to be a committed entrepreneur, listen, in 25 years I've been doing this. I can spot a fake like that very, very quickly, right? And then,
Love it.
and actually, my team has been trained to actually spot that very quickly too. So we want to make sure that your ecom brand is the right fit, and you're at the right stage of growth where we want you to be in order for you to succeed also in the program.
Mm,
Because one, we don't want you to. We talked about wasting time and energy, right? So we don't want you to waste your time, energy, or money getting into the program, right? So
right.
don't do that, right? But if you're committed, and we have hundreds of brands that are committed and they do fabulously well, they continue growing. I mean, we've had ridiculous results in their year one of growth, and year two they're faced with growing against that ridiculous growth from prior year, and they continue growing. And then things like the things that you obsess about, things like ROAS, right? Ad ROAS. Our average rapid 2xer sees a 4 to 6x ROAS in their meta ads and Google ads, performance and stuff like that. Because what we do is we fix the things at the root of the problem, so that across all 8 dimensions. That's the framework of Rapid 2X.
Feel like
Uh,
that's the next thing. I feel like that's the next thing, Sabir. We're going to need to. I'm just going to pop in here and say, I think that that's what we're going to need to talk about, Sabir. Is we're going to have to talk about the 8 dimensions. We're going to have to talk about what exactly are they, and how are they going to impact our audience's next steps in what they do. So I'm going to invite everyone to make sure that you keep your eyes peeled, because Sabir and I are going to have another conversation. We're going to really dive deep into what does this actually look like, because I know that it can be hard to conceptualize these things, to understand this rapid change, this rapid growth, these amazing results without really knowing the in-betweens. Sometimes it can feel like a lot. I get it, right? I get it. We want to both live our life fully and joyfully while simultaneously growing our business intentionally and meaningfully, and of course in a committed way. But there's a lot to it, and we aren't superheroes. So it takes that, and Sabir mentioned this already. You mentioned this, sir. You said we need the expert. We need the person who knows. And in order to really dive deep into that world, we need to have the conversation with them. So if you haven't already, check out that link in the show notes. Make sure that you sign up there and have a conversation with the person who knows. Say hello, find out what those details are, and join us for our next conversation where we kind of go a little deeper into what does it even mean to look into the 8D method, in order to really get that rapid 2x growth compounded. Remember, we just talked about it, it compounds, it continues to grow. With that, I'm going to invite you all to join our conversation, shoot us a message, subscribe, and hey, reach out to me. Go to www.shaunalee.com. The link is in the show notes as well. And let's figure out how to navigate this crazy world without all of the mess. Sabir, I think you can agree. We don't want the mess anymore. We want to get the root cause just stripped down.
Take out the garbage.
Yes, get rid of it. No more putting band-aids, lipstick on a pig, band-aids on a bleeding wound. We're nipping it at the butt. All right, I will get off my soapbox because trust me, I could talk about this all day. And Sabir, thank you so much for joining me on this conversation. It has been
It's
an
been great,
absolute joy.
Shauna. Thank you for
We
having
will
me.
have another call very soon, for sure. See you later, all.